I remember the exact smell of the ocean on the day we bought it. Salt, yes, but mixed with this wild, blooming jasmine. I remember the sound of my husband David's laugh echoing on the porch, so full of hope. That's the image I want you to hold on to. Now, imagine your retirement savings, that number you've spent a lifetime building. Imagine it as a cage. A beautiful, sun-drenched cage with an ocean view, but a cage nonetheless. I can still hear the sound of the key turning in the lock for the first time. It was a crisp, metallic click. I thought it was the sound of a promise. In reality, it was the sound of a trap being sprung. We weren't just buying a house. We were buying a legacy for our children and our grandchildren. A place where the salt air smelled like healing and the sound of our family's laughter would fill every room. But the house that was meant to be our freedom became our prison, and the betrayal began not with a stranger, but with a dream. Today, that beautiful house is my financial nightmare. And the most terrifying part? We did everything you're supposed to. We were careful. We saved for 40 years. If this could happen to me, it could happen to you too. I thought I was unlocking a dream, but I was stepping into a nightmare I couldn't escape. For 40 years, David and I did everything right. He was an engineer, meticulous and steady. I was a teacher, always planning for the long term. I remember my younger self sitting at our small kitchen table, carefully balancing our checkbook to the very last penny. That woman would be horrified to see what I became. We built our 401ks with an unwavering faith that it was our fortress, built brick by brick to protect our future. The idea of a vacation home started as a whisper. After we retired, that whisper became a roar. The stock market was soaring, and our retirement statements looked so solid they felt like a vault. We felt invincible. Then we found Serenity Point. The air smelled of salt and jasmine. David gripped my hand, his eyes shining. But the house was more than we'd planned. The real estate agent, so smooth and reassuring, said, "Think of this as moving an asset, not spending it. You're building a legacy." His words felt like permission. But our financial advisor, a man we'd trusted for years, was the one who sealed our fate. I can still see him in his polished suit, his calm tone making everything sound so reasonable as we laid out the plan. Use a massive chunk of our 401k for the down payment. This is wrong. A voice in my head screamed, "This is the wall of your fortress. You don't take a sledgehammer to the wall." He presented it as a viable strategy, using phrases like unlocking equity and lifestyle investment. He mentioned the risks, but they were footnotes. The penalties and taxes? Just the cost of entry. David, completely smitten, saw only the dream. "Think of what we're leaving for the kids," he'd say. I felt like I was failing them if I said no. I remember the day we signed. I wore my blue dress, the one I saved for special occasions. My hand trembled as I held the pen. That night we went out for a celebratory dinner. The glasses clinked, David was beaming, and I forced a smile that felt like a mask. The expensive food tasted like cardboard in my mouth, because deep down, I already knew. We had made a terrible mistake. We authorized the withdrawal. The number in our retirement account plummeted. But holding the keys to Serenity Point, we thought the hard part was over. We had no idea we'd just lit the fuse on our own destruction. The honeymoon at Serenity Point lasted about 6 glorious months. Some nights, I'd sit alone in the living room, the beautiful moonlit ocean staring back at me, and feel nothing but an ugly, cold dread. Our fixed income just barely covered our costs, but we told ourselves it was manageable. The first crack wasn't a bang, but a single piece of paper, the new property tax statement. I just stared at the number. It was wrong. It couldn't be right. Nearly double the estimate. My hands trembled. That one bill instantly added hundreds of dollars to our monthly budget, money we didn't have. For the first time, the word trapped flickered in my mind. Then came the insurance bill with a 30% premium jump. I overheard a neighbor muttering by the mailboxes, "These storms are going to cost us all." I pushed the thought away, but the seed of fear was planted. Our budget wasn't just tight anymore, it was screaming. And then the house itself turned on us. A house by the sea is a relentless beast. The salt air is corrosive. Rust from the deck railings stained the siding. The paint peeled. A pipe burst. A steady, sickening bleed from the small cash buffer we'd kept. The crack that truly shattered our illusion came on a humid August afternoon. The air conditioning unit died with a terrible grinding noise. The HVAC guy took one look. "The whole system's corroded from the salt," he said. "Full replacement." The quote was $14,000. $14,000. Gone. We didn't have it. We had to make another withdrawal. This time, there was no dream to justify it, just a cold knot of fear. The penalties felt like a fine for being stupid. Sitting in the sweltering heat of our paradise, the ocean view became a mockery. We thought we'd hit rock bottom, but rock bottom had a basement, and the floodwaters were rising. Maybe you've been there too. That sickening drop in your stomach when a dream starts to feel like a trap. When a decision that was supposed to bring you joy becomes a source of constant anxiety. If you have, please share your story in the comments. We have to talk about these hidden risks, because knowing you're not alone helps more than you can imagine. After the HVAC, the financial bleeding became a hemorrhage. I started to fear the mailbox. The little red flag felt like a warning signal. I'd let the envelopes pile up on the counter for days, little paper threats I was too afraid to open. Soon enough, one of them confirmed my dread. A special assessment from the HOA. A storm had eroded the shared beachfront. Our share was $8,000, due in 90 days. We took out a high-interest personal loan. Then, inflation hit. The price of everything went up. The stress was taking its toll. I'd catch my reflection and see a woman who looked 10 years older, with dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights. Maybe you've smiled through dinner with friends while secretly wondering how you're going to pay the bills. That was my life. We missed my grandson's 5th birthday. The day of his party, I sat in the kitchen and pictured it all. The bright blue icing on his cake, the 5 little candles waiting to be blown out, and the empty chair at the table where his grandma should have been. I rehearsed the lie before calling my daughter. "We've both got a terrible cold," I said, my voice cheerful and fake. The lie tasted like ash. After I hung up, I cried, mourning a milestone I'd missed because we couldn't afford the gas. My greatest fear, becoming a burden, was twisting into something worse, becoming an absence. I had failed them. David grew quiet. The tension was in the painful silence. The house looked as neglected as we felt. and I couldn't shake a growing worry about the rising cost of our health care. It felt like another storm cloud gathering on the horizon. We thought the bleeding had stopped, but the wound was only getting deeper. The breaking point arrived in a small, boring envelope from David's former employer. I can still hear the sharp sound of the paper unfolding, a sound that sliced through the quiet dread of the house. My eyes scanned the page until one paragraph jumped out. The company's health insurance subsidy for retirees was being drastically reduced. Our monthly premium was set to triple. Triple. My hands went cold. The numbers swam, a high-pitched ringing in my ears. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. This wasn't the house. This was our health, our lifeline. This was an impossibility. I walked into the living room and handed David the letter. I watched his face, already so etched with worry, completely collapse. He looked at me, all the anger between us gone. In its place was a bottomless despair that mirrored my own. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah," he whispered, his voice cracking. He slumped into his chair and put his head in his hands, utterly broken. Watching the strong man I loved reduced to this, my resentment melted away. He was right. We couldn't do it anymore. The fight was over. "What do we have left?" I finally asked, my voice hollow. He told me the figure. It was a pittance. In my mind, I saw the sledgehammer again. We hadn't just taken a sledgehammer to the wall of our fortress. We had leveled it. We were standing in the rubble with nothing to protect us. That night, I lay awake, my mind a horror show of foreclosures and the shame of asking our children for help. Just before dawn, a cold, stark clarity hit me. The dream was dead. The house was a prison. The only way out was to let it all go. I went inside. David was making coffee. "We have to sell it," I said. He stood still for a long moment. Then he let out a long, shaky breath that was almost a sob. "I know," he said. "It wasn't relief. It was surrender. But in that surrender, the fight to save the dream was over. The fight to save ourselves was about to begin." Selling the house was a painful, humbling education. The market had cooled. We had to list it for less than we paid. After commissions and fees, that huge chunk of our 401k was just gone, vanished. The price of a lesson learned far too late. We accepted. We moved into a small, 2-bedroom rental apartment an hour inland. It's clean, simple, and blessedly affordable. There's a little patch of dirt out back where I've started planting some tomatoes. For the first time in years, I can breathe. Our financial recovery is a slow climb, but with the house gone, David and I started talking again. The other night, we were laughing over a simple pasta dinner in our tiny kitchen, and he looked at me and smiled. A real smile. We are a team again, united not by a dream, but by the quiet struggle of rebuilding. Our daughter brought the grandkids over last weekend. There was no ocean view, but their laughter filled our little apartment as they helped me water my tomato plants. Holding my granddaughter's hand, I realized that this was the true wealth. This was the legacy I thought I had lost. It wasn't a house. It was the joy of being present in their lives. It was the richest I've felt in years. So, the first lesson is this. Your retirement savings are sacred. A 401k is not a slush fund. The penalties for withdrawal aren't just fees. They are giant red flags screaming, "Stop." The second lesson is to obsess over the hidden costs of any major purchase. Finally, I've learned what true wealth is. It isn't a house with an ocean view, it's peace of mind. It's sleeping through the night without a knot of fear in your stomach. We lost a fortune, but we are slowly finding our peace. We lost the house, but we found each other again, and maybe that's the only wealth that truly lasts. We're still rebuilding, and it's a long road, but we're together, and we're no longer trapped. We have our lives back. So, I'm asking you this. From one woman who learned too late to another who still has time, what is the single best piece of financial advice you've ever received, or the one you wish you had known sooner? Please share that wisdom in the comments. Your words could be the very thing that saves someone else from making a mistake like ours. Thank you for listening. Watch this next for another gripping tale of retirement gone wrong, plus the lesson you can't afford to miss.